Hey, welcome back to Refreshment for You. I'm the doctor, and the professor is somewhere backstage doing all those wonderful things that he does to make this show go. Yeah, shout out to the professor. Thank you. Today we're going to be talking about when rest rewrites the story. And before we get into things, I want to just tell you, I am a doctor, but I'm not your doctor. Everything I share here is my own personal experience and my viewpoints from my work and leadership. But for you, if you're struggling with anything today, reach out to a licensed provider who can help you with your story. What is your relationship with rest? Do you feel like it's this ever elusive and evading thing? When rest rewrites your story is about how you perceive rest in your daytime operating hours. Today, we're going to be talking through some scientific stuff, spiritual stuff, and my story, which I haven't felt like I've been able to share a whole lot prior to right now. Many of the best leadership principles can be found through the Bible. There's a thing called servant leadership and the different types of leadership. And certainly Jesus Christ was he was the penultimate person who showed how to be a servant leader. You know, one of the last things he did was wash his disciples' feet. Wow. Like really, that was not a job for the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, but he humbled himself. And he said, no job is underneath me. I want to be that example of how to serve others best. As we think about our relationship with work, with our profession, we need to not neglect ourselves. Jesus had healed a man, and this was in Luke chapter 8. He had done a lot of healings. Lots of healings in Luke chapter 8. But with this particular man, he said, go home and declare how much God has done for you. That was pretty significant. Why? Because that's telling us we need to lead first in our homes, and then we can feel that release to go tell others. And that's one of the biggest reasons why over my 9-month prescriptive journey of rest, and actually I call it a 9-month journey because I just kind of felt a release of this at 9 months that now I'm able to speak about my story. It was one day afterwards where I felt this freedom to now be able to tell and share parts of my story that could be helpful. Because when you think about a good storyteller, you don't want to stop in the middle and say, well, what's the end? What happened next? We need to be able to tell our stories with a conclusionary thought or even, a hint at to be continued. But in the midst of conflict or strife or, challenges, we don't want to end the story there because there is a redemption factor that can come later if you work through it. Sometimes when you talk to your family members about stuff, that can be one of the most difficult conversations. It's easier to get behind a mic and talk to like nobody in the room. Talking with a family member, that's really when your mettle might be tested. And that you want to make sure you do these things with grace. Encouraging this family member to rest. Don't go after the goal so hard. Don't be overworking, overusing, and questioning the sustainability of how much longer you can do this when your body is clearly shouting in pain to stop. Don't work through the pain like that. That's not healthy, in my opinion. It's not sustainable. This is something that cannot be sustained without some deleterious or possibly damaging effects. I've mentioned about that 9-month journey. Well, that's a rough threshold where when you repeat thought patterns dissimilar to when you're trying to change a habit, which might take 3 weeks to 2 months to do by not doing something, this is about when you're cultivating your thought patterns over a specific period of time. And for me, it also was adding on a spiritual posture to this idea of rest, which I didn't take too kindly to begin with. I had goals, but I wasn't cultivating myself, not keeping an eye for sustainability. You know that I've talked about in previous episodes about following and taking a page from nature with the seasons, that it's not always a season of blooming and flowering, that in that rest and dormancy time of winter that we experience here in the Northeast, we look to prune. We want to prune some of the trees and the bushes when they're not flourishing to say, what isn't serving me at this point? Those are some real activities and postures that need to be done on a regular basis. And some of us just forgot about pruning. We just kept on saying yes, 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 yes. And the more we said yes to things, and they were all good things, they're hard to say no to. But that is unsustainable. There needs to be pruning, some no's, so that you can focus on the long haul for your health, for your wellness. Okay. You've heard me talk about the importance of self-pacing. As I tell you about taking the page from nature, and we've talked about pruning trees, think about the ocean as well. You know, the tide comes in. Sometimes the high tide is there. And that's when we're doing a lot of work. And yet we're still taking time to breathe and time to be intentional and time to set those sacred pauses up in our day. Low tide, right? Sometimes it doesn't smell so good in low tide here in the Northeast where I'm at. And the Long Island Sound, that can smell pretty fishy sometimes. And so, you know, when things calm down, then, dredge out the seaweed, dredge out the water, right? Try and, prune a little bit there. And then sometimes the water is very still and very calm. And I really like those times too. And I just love looking out on the horizon. And this time of sacred pausing and resting in the rhythm of your natural days and weeks and months and years absolutely needs to be a part of your fabric. It's built into nature. It is nature's story and nature's lesson for us. And we would do well by taking a page. So if you've been in a period of rest like I was, and it may not have started off easy, and you questioned how long, I'm just so grateful that right now I can use my strength, that is my voice, to speak to you about these things and to share my story so that it might uplift you a little bit and give you some hope to where you are. So I want to end with this affirmation for you. You don't need to earn rest. You were created for it. Sometimes the most courageous thing that you can do is to listen to your body, to your spirit, and to life, and to honor that. Take the long view. You only have one body, one nervous system, one vessel, one you. And you want to partner with God, with those around you. And if you're a leader, you need to be setting a good example in this area. Rest is not the end of your calling if you're in a sustained period. It's the middle of your story. There was a before and there's going to be an after. The after might not look exactly like it did before, like in my story. But be encouraged that when you trust in God, He'll take care of the rest. We're going to end there. Yes, this was good. I can't wait for next time, but I will. I'll take that sacred pause and that sacred rest. All right, I want to remind you today that we have a special opportunity for you. We have a reflection guide and some journal prompts that are going to help you dig in even a little bit more to this idea of rest and how it's really good for you. I'm going to invite you to email us today to Refresh Meant For You to get your copy of the reflection guide and journal prompt in the subject line or somewhere in the email. Please put rest so that we'll know which one to send along to you. Okay, so Refresh Meant For You. That's Refresh, MEANT, the number 4, the letter U. Till next time, I'm the doctor. You're going to see the professor emerge here somewhere. Bye for now.